Hello, guys. Welcome back to the MMA Sucka podcast. As always, I'm your host, Frazer, and this is going to be your UFC 304, UFC Manchester, UFC Edwards versus Muhammad 2, Aftermath and Fallout. I didn't mind the event. I thought it was very good. I enjoyed it from start to finish. I watched it in two halves because even though it was in my home country of England, I'm not about to get up at or stay up, sorry, until 5:36. I'm pretty sure John Anik said. So the main event finished around 10 past 6 in the morning. Not for me. I just caught it this morning, but the time at the moment is 10:24. I've watched the entire card. I've watched every fight, and I don't think it was too bad. I think top to bottom, we had a number of good performances. I think there was a number of underwhelming fights. There was a number of fights that didn't quite go as we thought they might. And there was one performance in particular that I was really disappointed in based on what we expected going into the fight. How I'm going to do it is I'm just going to go from top to bottom, from the main event to the first fight on the card. I'm not going to speak an awful lot about all the fights. I'll probably just give you the result for a lot of them, but obviously the sort of more important fights, the fights at the top of the card, I will obviously go into more detail on. In the main event, we have a new UFC welterweight champion of the world, and his name is Belal Muhammad. I didn't see this one coming. I picked Leon Edwards, and I'll be honest, I'm impressed with Belal Muhammad. We knew that he was good going into it. I think it was a five-fight undefeated streak since that no contest with Rocky the first time round. But in that fight, Rocky Rocky was dominating the first round. He was hitting Belal well. He was defending Belal didn't even shoot for any takedowns. And then you can kind of take a little bit from that first round. You also have to look at the caliber of opponents that both men have been fighting as of late. Who is the perfect, or who should have been the perfect opponent for Leon Edwards to prepare for in preparation for a wrestling Belal Muhammad? Well, of course, it's wrestlers. You're talking Kamaru Usman, you're talking Colby Covington. The two men, he's had his last three fights, two against Usman, one against Covington, and he's dominated. Well, he dominated the second Usman fight, in my opinion, and dominated Colby Covington. And the first fight, obviously, we know what happened there with the headshot dead. This fight, I don't know what it was about Leon. For want of a better phrase, he looked awful. I'm a big Leon Edwards fan, always have been. He lives, Birmingham is about 20 minutes from my hometown of Coventry. But he didn't look good. He looked flat. He looked tired from the off. And I wish made a, I wish I'd tweeted it out or made a note. Or if I would have watched it live, I would have commented on it. He looked nervous. He looked flat on his walkout. He looked a little bit nervous when he was having his name announced. And that was worrying for me from the start. And then the first round started, and Bilal, as we expected, was straight on the front foot, straight away on the front foot with the pressure. And Leon couldn't handle it. Leon, he couldn't do enough. His footwork wasn't moving. He was getting backed up to the fence, and then Bilal takes him down in that first round. And he gets back to his feet, and Bilal takes him down again, I think, at the end of the first round. And the stats just show, 51 total strikes landed in that first round for Belal Muhammad, 25 landed for Leon Edwards, 15 of which were significant strikes. It was a really disappointing first round from Rocky because he was on the back foot from minute one. And like I said, he looked flat, he looked tired, he looked slow in there. And Bilal was actually the much quicker guy, which is not something that we expected, but he was also the much, slicker guy. Yes, he was still defending shots with his face, which isn't slick at all. But, he landed a good uppercut on Rocky when he tried to Rocky does this sort of almost Philly shell style post and he landed a good uppercut underneath the arm. He sort of rocked Edwards. Then we've got round two. Again, more relentless wrestling from Belal Muhammad. Four of five takedowns landed. 13 significant strikes to 11 significant strikes for Belal. But he was just more active. And after the first round, Belal Muhammad was 2-0 up. Leon Edwards was looking tired. And I'll be honest, that third round is the only round that stopped Rocky, in my opinion, getting 50-45. And that's based on the fact that he just had, he had 4 minutes 18 back control. landed 19 strikes to Belal Muhammad's nine, two significant strikes to Belal Muhammad's four. He managed to get the back, get the body triangle, threatened ish a submission over a naked choke. Could have maybe transitioned to the armbar, but just wasn't able to lock any of that in. And then the fourth round was a massive round for Belal Muhammad because that fourth round, if Belal wins that round, I think he knows that he wins the fight. If he's not finished, of course. And he goes out there and just dominates Rocky Edwards, And like I said, Rocky was just slow. His footwork he wasn't moving the way that we saw him move against Colby Covington. He was obviously apprehensive from the takedown. I thought his takedown defense was dreadful. He was taken down, and Belal Muhammad wasn't even having to work too hard for the takedowns, which was something that Colby Covington wasn't able to do to Leon Edwards. I don't think he took him down once. Oh no, sorry, he took him down twice, but 2 of 10, 20% takedown accuracy for Colby Covington. You compare that to Belal Muhammad, 69% takedown accuracy, 9 of 13. But when he did look to really commit to, he spiked Leon Edwards on his head at one point. When he really did look to put it on Leon Edwards and really commit to the takedown, it was easy for Belal Muhammad, really, really easy. And I think Leon Edwards is going to be pretty disappointed. He said after the fight that he felt tired all week. And you've got to consider that the guys coming over from America probably don't, well, I more than likely don't change their sleeping pattern or anything. They're on American time zone and they just come over and stay on American time zone. For Rocky, I know he's had a 6 week training camp, but it's been particularly hot for the UK the last week, a couple of weeks. So Leon's trying to sleep in the middle of the day when it's extremely hot. And yes, so is every other fighter. But you think of someone like, Sean O'Bannon, who was the first fight of the night, Mick Parkin, you've got Sam Patterson, these guys, the first three fights on the card. Sean O'Bannon, obviously 15 minutes. She fought at what 11 o'clock, so by 20 past 11 she was done. Mick Parkin, first round knockout, he was done by half 11, quarter to 12, and then Sam Patterson, first round submission, he was done by 12 o'clock. These guys haven't had to really haven't had to adjust the way that their lifestyle at all. For Leon Rocky Edwards, he's had to completely adjust his lifestyle. And he said, he kind of admitted that maybe, he felt tired a week, and that's maybe why he put in a very, very flat performance. Round four, yeah, so round four was all Belal Muhammad. And then round five, I think we could kind of tell, Leon hadn't really hurt him, he'd caught Belal, but he hadn't hurt him at all in the opening 4 round, 20 minutes of action. He's tired, he's slow, he's flat, he's not. What was most strange for me is that, Belal was good on the feet. He showed very improved boxing. Is it Canelo like his coach said, and like he sort of commented on in the post-fight interview with DC? No, it's not Canelo. Like, come on, Belal. Like, come on, mate. Like, we know he was good, but it wasn't Canelo like. But he certainly showed a lot of improvements. He was quick on the feet. He was quick on the jab. His jab was, sending Rocky's head back. But what Belal did was that he didn't allow Rocky any space, no space whatsoever. Constantly, he almost fought like a Mexican boxer. If there's more than a meter between the two guys, Belal was trying to close that distance, and that worked really well. Rocky, there's no point fainting if you're that close to each other because you can't really make the reads that close. When Belal's almost got his head on Rocky's chest and Rocky's constantly backing up, you can't faint and then make the read because there's just not the space to make that read. And if you do faint, there's the risk of the shot coming from Belal Muhammad. That fifth round, Muhammad again took Edwards down, controlled him for the majority of the round. Edwards managed to reverse the position, get on top, did land the big elbows, really, really, damaging shots. I can understand maybe, that third round did go to Leon sorry, fifth round went to Leon Edwards on damage, which, I wouldn't be mad about, but this wasn't controversial. It wasn't close. It was just absolute domination from Chicago's own Belal Muhammad, and now he's written himself into the record books as a welterweight champion. like I said, it was a very flat performance from Leon Rocky Edwards, and I'm not, maybe they'll come out that he had a slight injury, or maybe it'll come out, something else. It wasn't a normal Leon Edwards performance. It was a normal Belal Muhammad performance, and Belal Muhammad did exactly what he needed to do to win the fight, and he did it, and he did it well, and he dominated the fight. And fair play to Belal Muhammad because I picked Leon Edwards going in. I thought the preparation of two fights with Usman, a fight with Colby Covington, would have set him up really well against Belal Muhammad. But Belal Muhammad was a man on a mission, a man possessed. What Belal Muhammad will be like as a welterweight champion, I'm not sure. His work on the mic needs a lot of work. He's a little bit cringy, as it were, but if he's doing it in the octagon, he's doing it in the octagon. You can be the cringiest guy in the world on the mic. Look at someone like Daniel Dubois in the world of boxing. He's, no disrespect, terrible on the mic, and he's got a fight with Anthony Joshua coming up. Belal Muhammad obviously now the champion. I imagine Kamaru Usman will drop down to number two. Leon Edwards will drop down to number one. So who's next? You've got, for me, one clear contender. I don't see because the fight was so one-sided. I don't see an immediate rematch going down. Rocky did say that he wants that one back, but then he also said, "I'll fight in November or December." Maybe we'd get a rematch in as a co-main event because penny for the bodies of and the minds of those guys who went to watch the fight live. It was a boring fight. It was instantly forgettable. It was boring. Was it because it was wrestling heavy? No, because we had a couple of wrestling heavy fights that were very entertaining on this card, but that was not a good fight. It was one man just, it's quite risk averse from Belal Muhammad. I'm not mad about it. He won the fight, he won the belt. And that's what we've come to expect from Belal Muhammad, a risk averse approach. But it wasn't a fun fight to watch. And that was at 5:30 in the morning for many, well, for everyone in attendance, it was 5:30 in the morning. I think a lot of beer may have been consumed. So you may have had a couple of, you know, people snoozing at the back, maybe. Who knows? But I think next it's got to be Shavkat now. It's got to be Shavkat, which is a tough fight for. It's a tough fight for Belal. It's a tough fight. Would have been a tough fight for Leon. It's a tough fight for anyone. For Leon, who does he fight next? You could even drop down as far as a Jack Della Maddalena. He's ranked number five, or you put him in there with Ian Machado Gary as a title eliminator. I think that would be a really good fight. Belal, like I said, probably going to be Shavkat next. Later on in the year, maybe. What are we in July? Say August, September. I don't think they'll be able to make that Abu Dhabi card. But Belal's 36 years old, and he does take damage in fights. He's undefeated since 2019, where he lost to Jeff Neal by decision. He's on an 15 fight unbeaten streak. If we take out that Leon Edwards eye poke, 14 fight winning streak. He needs to add another element to his game, in my opinion. He needs to slip shots much better because if someone like Shavkat catches him, it's probably going to be a short night. But fair play to Belal Muhammad, the new welterweight champion of the world. And that came after the co-main event lasted 1 minute when big Tom Aspinall TKO'd Curtis Blaydes within the first minute to retain his interim heavyweight championship, win 100K bonus, and probably put John Jones more on notice than he ever has before. Tom looked the much smaller guy in there. Curtis Blaydes looked very big, but it doesn't matter. Tom is without a doubt the fastest heavyweight on the planet in the world of MMA at the moment. He landed 14 of 19 strikes, 5 of 12 for Curtis Blaydes. Curtis Blaydes did catch Tom, but I think Tom Aspinall's got a phenomenal chin, and that shows. I want to see Tom go later on in fights, but it's not happening at the moment. He's seen a second round once, and that was against Andrei Arlovski. All first round finishes, including that obviously that first loss to Curtis Blaydes. Apart from the one against Andrei Arlovski, like I said, he's on a streak of 3 first round TKO finishes, all of which are performance of the night, winning bonuses. He is quickly punching his way into being the most entertaining, the best, the most must-watch fighter in the UFC. Like I said, all first round finishes apart from one. Interim heavyweight champion of the world now. And if you look at that finish of Curtis Blaydes, remember this is Curtis Blaydes, a man who's only been finished by the likes of Pavlovich, Derek Lewis, and Francis Ngannou. Only lost to them, and they were all finishes. It looked like Tom landed a 1-2, but from my perspective, in my opinion, he didn't actually land the two. He landed the one, the jab that dropped Curtis Blaydes. He came over the top, maybe clipped him, but he didn't land flush with the right hand. Sends Curtis Blaydes backwards, and like Tom said on his post-fight interview, he's the most dangerous finisher in the UFC. I think if he sees that he's got you hurt, it's game over. It's a serious problem if Tom Aspinall sees that he's got you hurt. And we saw that, was it an early stoppage? It's tough to tell because I think Tom, if he hadn't have been pulled out, I think it's Mark Goddard, the referee. Yeah, it was Mark Goddard. If Mark Goddard hadn't stopped Tom Aspinall, he probably just landed another five, six, seven punches and Curtis Blaydes goes out. But it wasn't a good visual. He was flat. He did go limp at one point, and I don't think he wasn't out, but he did sort of, lose the structure of his body in a way at one point. So it wasn't, like I say, it wasn't a good visual. Was it an early stoppage? I mean, interim heavyweight title, co-main event, a minute into the fight, I'd probably have let him take, three or four more punches. But Tom Aspinall, he would have finished Curtis Blaydes, so I'm not mad about a stoppage. And it has to be. I know he's done a very exciting thing in the post-fight press conference and pitched him versus Alex Pereira, Stipe versus John Jones tournament. Winners face each other at MSG. That won't happen because Dana White is uninventive, for want of a better phrase. But it's John Jones next, and I think Tom Aspinall batters John. Tom Aspinall, in my eyes, is the heavyweight champion of the UFC. I don't. I cannot see how John Jones beats Tom Aspinall, and maybe that's a slight recency bias. But you look at John Jones since February 2020, he's fought twice. Um, well, since February the 9th, 2020, should we say, he's fought once. That was up at heavyweight, and it was against Cyril Gane in a performance which, yeah, sorry, against an opponent in Cyril Gane, which very, very much played in his favor as far as stylistic matchups are concerned. Cyril Gane has got next to no ground game. He was taken down and dominated by Francis Ngannou when those guys fought. Let me just double check something. I just want to Cyril Gane when he lost to Francis Ngannou, he was taken down four or five times against Francis Ngannou, and controlled on the ground every time. You put him in there with someone like John Jones, who knows how to wrestle. No disrespect to Ngannou, but kind of know Ngannou's game at this point. He's a fucking heavy hitter. John Jones, if he looks to take Tom Aspinall, so much faster than John Jones, even though John Jones is a man that's essentially still coming up in weight from light heavyweight, so much faster. What could cause Tom a little bit of an issue is the reach of John Jones, but if we just have a look, Curtis Blaydes' reach is 80 inches. John Jones' reach is 84 and a half. Could be a little bit of an issue, but Tom Aspinall's quick enough to get in on that reach. I'm gonna release a separate video on John Jones versus Tom Aspinall and how I think that fight will go. But phenomenal performance by Tom yet again. A minute worth of work this year alone. Sorry, in the past 12 months, Tom's had what three, just over, well, yeah, 3 minutes 23, 22 seconds worth of work, earned himself a pretty penny, three first round finishes, phenomenal work by Tom Aspinall, and I'm not surprised. I think he's the best heavyweight on the planet. I think he's certainly up there on the pound for pound list. At the moment, he's ranked number 11. Leon will obviously drop out. Belal will probably come in, but I think Tom Aspinall has to move up a lot on that pound for pound list because I think if he was small enough, he would go down to light heavyweight and do really well there as well. He's quick. He's quicker than most light heavyweights, And I do want to see him against John Jones. I want to see him against Alex Pereira. I want to see him against everybody because I just think he's better than everybody. Like I said, I'm not surprised that Tom Aspinall dealt with Curtis Blaydes in the manner that he did. But what I am surprised about is just how easily Paddy Pimblett beat Bobby Green. What a performance by Paddy Pimblett. I think he got a 200K bonus for it. Without a doubt, the best performance of his career. Without a doubt, the biggest fight of his career, the toughest opponent. Bobby Green, I think that was his 50th pro fight. And Paddy Pimblett absolutely put on the best performance. Tom Aspinall's was phenomenal, but we expect that from a heavyweight. If you land as a heavyweight, 9 times out of 10, they're going down. Paddy Pimblett, for me, put on the best performance of the night. And he was very, very mature. We see him, hear his post fight and pre fight antics. Hear him talk. He's bouncing to the ring with a Scouse house, and yet as soon as his name is announced, bang, game mode, and he's very very calculated in there. DC said that Paddy Pimblett admitted to him that the idea was to leg kick essentially Bobby Green. Hopefully that'll open up maybe a takedown or open up the hands. But it must be difficult fighting Bobby Green because he's there with his hands down. Sorry, King Green. Um, he's there with his hands down, constantly talking trash. If you land on him, he said, "Yeah, what's that?" Constantly talking, trying to get in Paddy's face from the off. And Paddy was just really mature. He was really mature. Kept working the leg kick, kept working the inside leg kick. Um, just having a quick look. Obviously, the fight only lasted three and a half minutes, but Paddy landed 6 of 9 leg kicks. Bobby Green was using that side kick to the leg to sort of almost John Jones knee stomp to try and, hyperextend Paddy's leg, but Paddy did really well. Constantly kept his hands up, his arm out to measure that distance and kept his hands up. And then when he shot a low kick, Bobby Green, I mean, early on in the fight, he shot a low kick. Bobby Green caught the leg and tried to sort of throw him off balance. Didn't quite work. Second time of asking, Paddy Pimblett throws a leg kick. Bobby Green goes to catch and looks like he's shooting for the double leg. And UFC stats have said that he scored a takedown. Well, yeah, I guess. But the jiu-jitsu that was on show from Paddy Pimblett to go from the guillotine to the triangle, choke Bobby Green out, and then put him in a triangle armbar. Phenomenal performance by Paddy Pimblett. Phenomenal jiu-jitsu from Paddy Pimblett. And this is what he can do. And it's, that is going to put, like he said himself, statement made. He's going to put the whole lightweight division on notice. The first man since 2009 to submit Bobby Green. First man in the UFC to ever submit Bobby Green. You think about some of the people that Bobby Green's gone up against, or King Green, Islam Makhachev, wasn't able to submit him. We've got Jalen Turner, wasn't able to submit him. Jim Miller, Grant Dawson, Tony Ferguson, Drew Dober. He fought a who's who of the division. Clay Guida back in the day. He still has never been finished by submission in sorry, yeah, by submission in the UFC. And yet Paddy Pimblett, the man who I picked Bobby Green, I thought he'd take the UFC 300 form into UFC 304. I picked Bobby Green. Paddy Pimblett went out there, put on the best performance of his career, took next to no damage whatsoever, submitted him with some of the most phenomenal jiu-jitsu we've seen in the octagon in a long, long while. And, you know, just looks really, really good. He's now ranked. He called out Renato Moicano, who's ranked number 10. I'd be keen to see that. Dan Hooker obviously just got announced to be facing Mateus Gamrot. I think that's a tough fight for Hooker. Gamrot's going to look to take him down. I'd love to see Paddy Pimblett versus Dan Hooker. I'd love to see Paddy Pimblett against, most of the guys in the lightweight division. And now, he's going to be ranked on Monday. Make these fights happen. Paddy Pimblett is not, I don't know how old Paddy is. He's born in 95, so he's a year older than me. So he's 29, Paddy Pimblett. He's still got a long career ahead of him, in my opinion. A massive draw, 6-0 in the UFC, 4 finishes, all of which have got him a performance of the night bonus. Massive, massive potential megastar on our hands with Paddy Pimblett. If he carries on doing what he's doing, like he did against Bobby Green, the sky's the limit. Next fight on the main card was Gregory Rodriguez, a late replacement, coming in to face Christian Leroy Duncan. We expected quite a war on the feet, and Gregory Rodriguez kind of went back to his roots and did exactly what he needed to do to beat Christian Leroy Duncan, which is a shame because CLD looked really good last time out against Claudio Ribeiro. Um, like I said, went back to his roots. Gregory Rodriguez took the fight to the floor, landed 4 of 12 takedowns, 8 total minutes of control time in a 15-minute fight. He did really well. He closed the distance quickly. He got the fight to the floor, and there's not too much more to say about it. He did what he needed to do, coming in on short notice. Extends his winning streak to 3. He's now 5-1 in his last 6 fights. I think, like I said, I thought that the winner of this one would certainly be knocking on the door at middleweight. Chris Curtis. I know we've got Anthony Hernandez versus Michel Pereira later on in the year confirmed. I think Gregory Rodriguez is knocking on the door for a ranking at 185, especially, taking this fight on short notice. He'll probably get, a big fight next because he deserves it. He saved Christian Leroy Duncan's place on the card. Unfortunately for CLD, obviously he lost, but he can take a lot away from that loss, I think. And you've also got to consider Leroy Duncan he's 10-2 now. He's 12 fights into a professional MMA career, 5 of which have come in the UFC. He's not that experienced. Same age as Paddy Pimblett. He's still got a lot to learn, Christian Leroy Duncan. He's very fast, very quick, but he does need to work on that ground game because he was controlled by Gregory Rodriguez. No shame in being controlled by Gregory Rodriguez. Most people at middleweight would be. But, he has got that hole in his game that he does need to plug. Arnold Allen versus Giga Chikadze opened up the main card. So we had 3 finishes at the top of the card, and then from Christian Leroy Duncan, Gregory Rodriguez down, we had a lot of decisions, and it did make for a little bit of a longer night. But yeah, Arnold Allen defeats Giga Chikadze by unanimous decision, 29-28 on all scorecards. And I think it was just the pressure of Arnold Allen pushing Giga Chikadze up against the cage for the majority of the second and third round. He did really well in that third round. It was his best round without a doubt. But, I think everyone that's ever seen Giga Chikadze fight knew how this one was going to go. He's very quick in the first round. If you can survive the first round, 9 times out of 10 you win it because he gasses out. His output, he throws very strong, heavy kicks in the first round, and not much after that. And that kind of showed. Arnold Allen back in the win column after 2 straight losses at featherweight. Just having a look, he's ranked number 5. It won't do anything for his ranking, I can't imagine, but a fight with Yair Rodriguez next would work for me. Um, maybe I think yeah, a Calvin Kattar rematch would also be of interest for me. That one didn't quite go the way that anyone planned it. It was a knee injury 8 seconds into the second round. So, didn't quite go how we planned it. Calvin Kattar, obviously, he's on a bit of a losing streak at the moment, 3 straight. Josh Emmett, that lost to Arnold Allen, and then Aljamain Sterling. He's scheduled to fight Carl Nelson, I didn't realize, in Paris. But, Calvin Kattar for me makes sense for Arnold Allen in the rematch. One of the best performances I think we saw on the card that, did go the distance. Nathaniel Wood, prospect, I think dominated Daniel Pineda. He scored a knockdown. He hurt him to the body in the first round. Defended a lot of takedowns. The takedowns or the scrambles that ended up on the floor, he defended well. He showed a good ground game. He showed a good top game. Showed slick striking that we know and we've come to expect from Nathaniel Wood. He was coming off that disappointing, controversial loss to Mohamed Naramov at featherweight. This is, I think, his 5th fight at featherweight now. He looks much better at the weight. He was slick. He was landing those low kicks like he always does. And I just thought it was a really, really good performance by Nathaniel Wood. A pretty dominant performance, in my opinion. I thought he put in a really, really good performance. And another, really good performance was Bruna Brazil, upsetting the crowd by beating Meatball Molly McCann. That first round for me was close to a 10-8 round. Bruna Brazil fought really long in this fight, and that's exactly what she needed to do against Molly McCann, who I don't think has got a massive reach. And just do 62-inch reach, against Bruno Brazil's 65-inch reach, but Brazil is at 5'6". Molly McCann is 5'4". So that reach is, made even longer by the size of Bruno Brazil. She was catching her coming in with jabs, and then she was catching her a lot with the knee up the middle, and then she landed that heavy body kick in the first round. I think she essentially dropped Molly McCann with a knee in that first round. Really, really hurt her with the body kick in the first round as well. And then Molly knew what she needed to do. She grounded her in that first round. She looked to ground her again in this. She needed to close the distance, get her head on Bruno Brazil's chest, not allow her to get the kicks going. And that's pretty much what she did. She did a good job of that in the latter rounds. But Bruno Brazil was, simply put, she was just too good on the night. She was, like I said, she was too long. She was too dominant, and she really put on, realistically, a bit of a clinic against Molly McCann. Molly McCann's got, she's got to stay at strawweight now, but she's she's fun. She's fun. She's a she's a personality, but she is 1-3 in her last four fights. Obviously, two of them coming at flyweight. Um, Diana Balbita win, obviously coming at strawweight, as now obviously the Bruno Brazil loss coming at strawweight. I think that first round really broke the heart of Molly McCann. I think she really thought that she could dominate the fight. And after being so brutalized to the body, she said something to her team. I'm not sure what she said to her team, but she said something to her team that she didn't want the cameras to pick up on at the end of the first round. I think she had her will broken, but fair play because she never gave up in that one. She could have easily, the way that her body and her liver were battered, she could have easily just given up, but she didn't. She carried on. She did go to a decision. It was a loss, but I don't think there's any shame in losing to Bruna Brazil because she put on a really good clinic. Jake Hadley. Jake Hadley looked really good. Taking the fight on short notice against Kyle Loughnane. Upper weight class at bantamweight. He did miss weight, but upper weight class. He was just a better striker, and that kind of proved that you can win fighting on the back foot. 107. He was more accurate. 107 strikes of 181 thrown, opposed to Loughran, who threw 188 but only landed 68. So he's almost doubled up on the strikes um, of Loughran. Defended takedowns well. Loughran only landed 1 of 8. Um, he needed that win, Jake Hadley. He stepped in on short notice in the UK and he bounced back. If I'm Jake Hadley, I stay at 135. I think he looked good at the weight. He took the shots of Loughran, who is a heavy hitter, and he hurt Loughran. He almost closed the eye of Loughran at one point. I'm going to come back to Mohamed Mokaev versus Manal Kape, but I'm just going to go through the rest of the card and then come back to that fight. Oban Elliott, phenomenal performance. I actually picked Preston Parsons to win. I thought he would make it boring by taking Oban Elliott down and controlling him on the floor. He didn't. He landed 1 of 9 takedowns, Preston Parsons, and it's just a really good performance by Oban Elliott. There's not really much more that we can say about that one. Modestas Bukauskas, I mean, again, a good performance. He was getting badly outstruck by Prashnio until he landed a pretty slick arm triangle from half guard, and it was a good finish. It really was a good finish. I was impressed. Yeah, I was impressed with Bukowski's ability to come from behind. It was a big fight for him as well. Obviously, he went to Brazil last time out, lost to Vitor Petrino. Um, Good performance. There's not really much more that we can say about it, to be honest. Sam Patterson, again, I think Sam Patterson was very unlucky not to get a performance bonus. Um, he did what he needed to do. Kiefer Crosby, like I said, I think I said it in the preview. If not, I'm pretty sure I said it in a preview article that Kiefer Crosby was going to try and get Sam Patterson to fight emotionally, and I think that's the only way that he could have won if he's able to catch Sam Patterson on the feet. But Patterson's big. He's tall. He's 6'3", 78-inch reach advantage. Kiefer Crosby 5'11", 70-inch reach. But it's not in the striking game that he performs well. Dana White's Contender Series, rear naked choke. He lost on the feet in his debut at lightweight, moved up to welterweight. Rear naked choke victory in the first round. This time, arm triangle submission in the first round. But what is so important for me about Sam Patterson is that he didn't rush his work. He he had the arm triangle. He tried to go to half guard, couldn't get it. Went back into mount, and then went back into half guard and submitted Kiefer Crosby. Crosby 0-2 now, two first round submission losses. He's a fun fighter to watch. He certainly is. I don't know if he's UFC caliber. He's what 34. Maybe we give him one more shot, but I don't know if he's UFC caliber. Second fight of the night, Mick Parkin beat Lucas Brzeski, sorry, by finish, and this was a really important for Mick Parkin to get the finish. He got the finish on the Contender Series. His first three fights against Jamal Pogues, Kyle Machado, and Mohammed Usman all went the distance, and they were, forgive me, pretty boring fights. This one, he caught his opponent, hurt his opponent, finished his opponent. Mick Parkin, first round, 100K bonus. Really good performance by Mick Parkin. And let's get Mick Parkin, let's kick on a bit now, because he took next to no damage in this fight. Obviously, just what 2 minute finish. Sorry, 3.5 minute finish. Mick Parkin, let's get him out again. He's 10-0, he's 28 years old. I'm just going to look around the Tapology rankings because I want to get Mick Parkin out again, and I want to get him out again soon, because I do think that he needs activity. He's ranked 27 on the Tapology rankings, for what it's worth. Maybe we put him in there against Martin Buday. I mean, Waldo Cortez Acosta coming off that win against Robert Despange. Um, I test his ground game against someone like Alexander Romanov, I don't think Romanov's ranked. Oh, he is ranked 13. So, there's plenty of opportunities for Mick Parkin. But I do want to see him out again pretty soon. And opening up the card, we had Shauna Bannon. She won a split decision 29-28, 30-27, and 29-28 the other way. I don't know what to say about Shauna Bannon. She fights like someone who is 6-1. Is the nicest, probably the nicest thing I can say about her. She's not a bad fighter at all, Shauna Bannon. She really isn't. She was, she got taken down. She was very active off her back. I think she knows that she needs to be active off her back. Because she, realistically, no disrespect, but she hasn't got good takedown defense at all. So she needs to be good off her back, because if she's not, it could be a long night for her. She's very good on the feet, but she's very predictable on the feet. She's constantly looking to blitz, and she does have good side kicks. She almost uses side kick as more of a jab, similar to what Stephen Wonderboy Thompson does. But the weird thing about Shauna Bannon is that she doesn't fight in the karate style. She kind of tries to strike like a karate practitioner, but from a kickboxing style. So she's not side on. She's very much sort of front on, but trying to fight like a karate stylist. It wasn't a bad performance. I wasn't overly impressed with it. Alice Ardeline. Yeah, I mean, yeah, she gassed out. She wasn't great. Who do you put Shauna Bannon in there with next is the question that I would be asking. For me, there's probably 3 or 4 fights that she could have. Emily Dakota is a good one. She's far more experienced than Shauna Bannon, but that would be a good fight. Josephine Knutston, I'm really high on 8-0 undefeated. Similar experience level. I mean, Corey McKenna maybe, but that's a tough fight for Shauna Bannon. But there's opportunities for her out there, but I just don't think that she's not going to live up to the hype that she entered the UFC with. But a fight when you enter the UFC at 5-0, having only fought on Invicta, really, I'm not too surprised with the way that she's performing at the moment on the big stage. Let's keep her off. Let's keep her as a curtain jerker, see how much she can do, and then we'll see after that. But going back to the flyweight fights between Mohammed Mokaev and Manal Kape, it was a mistake not having them on the press conference earlier on in the week. It was a mistake having them on the early prelims. They swapped to the prelims. There was a mistake having them on the early prelims. They swapped to the prelims, And the fight itself was a weird one. Obviously before the fight even started, the two tried to get at each other. The fight started, and the two didn't want to fight. I mean, it was a very, very strange fight. You had Mohammed Mokaev arguably should have had a point taken in that first round for grabbing the shorts and essentially pulling the arse out of Manel Cap. Um, I think it was the second round that Manel Cap seemed to maybe break his toe or dislocate his toe, and he tried to put it back in place. I don't, and there was an eye poke in there as well. Um, and the third round, Mokaev didn't really do an awful lot. He managed to control Cap a little bit, but it was very much Mokaev attempting to avoid the strikes of Manel Cap. It was a instantly forgettable fight in what had a lot of hype around it beforehand. What was disappointing for me is, I mean, you do that, I think 6-0 in the UFC, Mohammed Mokaev. Sorry, 7-0 in the UFC. You've got 4 finishes. He's certainly stepping up in competition. Manal Cap is obviously now 4-3 in the UFC. Lost three decisions. Manal Cap never seemed to put his foot down, but maybe he was worried about the takedown. But from what we understand, you're letting Mohammed Mokaev, who is ranked number 6 in the division. From what we understand from Dana White's comments, Dana White isn't going to renew his UFC contract. Now, I don't know if he was tired. I don't know if he was pissed off that Belal Muhammad had won, or that Tom Aspinall had won, or that Paddy Pimblett had won. I can't imagine that he was. But Dana White seemed in a really shitty mood. And it pisses me off a little bit because he's just had a fairly successful event that he's decided with the rest of the UFC that he's going to put on a terrible time zone for the UK fans, for the UK media. You've got at the top of the card a pretty big upset in Belal Muhammad beating Leon Edwards. You've got 2 Brits putting on performance of the night, winning bonuses in Tom Aspinall and Paddy Pimblett. You've got Mick Parkin further down the card. You've got a clear flyweight contender in Mohammed Mokaev. And he says that he's not going to renew Mokaev's contract and that the PFL are going to get an undefeated star. He clearly doesn't know anything about the PFL because they don't offer a flyweight division, from my understanding. And more than anything, I think it's a bit embarrassing on the side of Dana White. You're letting someone who is the next contender for a belt go because of what? Because maybe you don't like his style, his wrestling heavy style. You don't like the fact that he kicks off at fight week. I don't really understand why he didn't say, yeah, we'll look to negotiate. He negotiated with Paddy Pimblett a new deal this week. Why can you negotiate a new deal with Mohammed Mokaev? I don't really understand that. He also said that, oh, I'm going to get rid of the so there's always been a 50k bonus, as we know. Of course, fighters are going to want more. The fighter pay in the UFC is dreadful. Of course, they're going to ask for more bonuses. And he said, well, what's the point? Because people don't actually, essentially saying, what's the point? Because people don't go for it. You're trying to tell me Paddy Pimblett didn't go for it? Tom Aspinall didn't go for it. Leon Edwards didn't go for it in that final round. Arnold Allen didn't, maybe didn't go for it. Nathaniel Wood knocked his opponent down, didn't go for it. Bruno Brazil constantly trying to get the finish, constantly working the body of Molly McCann, didn't go for it. Jake Hadley stepping in on short notice, didn't go for it. Mohammed Mokaev and Manakap, hands up, they didn't go for it. But you've put on title fights between Yoel Romero and Israel Adesanya, who are two of, on paper, the most exciting fighters in the UFC. Both of them, neither of them went for it. Urban Elliott didn't go for it, but he was, constantly on the back foot. You've got Modestas Bukauskas down on the cards, securing an arm triangle. Sam Patterson putting on a clinic against Kiefer Crosby. Mick Parkin, you know, heavyweight, land, gets to finish, gets a performance of the night. And Sean O'Bannon was, doing what she needed to do to get her first UFC win. To say that these guys and girls didn't go for it, it's not only disrespectful to the guys and girls who didn't get a performance of the night bonus, but it's not true either. And I don't know what Dana White's comments were about. I don't want to end on a sour note with that because we've got a new welterweight champion of the world, a dominant welterweight champion of the world in Belal Muhammad. We've got a clear, in my opinion, best heavyweight on the planet, Tom Aspinall, defeating Curtis Blaydes in a minute. Paddy Pimblett put on the performance of a lifetime. against Bobby Green. That's some of the slickest jiu-jitsu we've seen in the octagon. I'm not going to do a preview because I want to keep this one just for UFC 304. But this upcoming weekend, we've got Corey Sandhagen versus Umar Nurmagomedov, Sharon Magomedov versus Mikhail Olenizachuk, Marlon Vera versus Davison Figueiredo, Tony Ferguson versus Michael Chiesa, Mackenzie Dern versus Lupi Godinez, amongst a whole host of others. Victoria Dudakova returns on this card. Jai Herbert returns on this card. We've got a late notice fight between Guram Kutateladze and Jordan Vesenik. Apologies if I've pronounced that wrong. That's going down from Abu Dhabi this Saturday. Be sure to tune in for that. I'll be dropping a review of that one next week. Thanks for listening to my UFC 304 aftermath breakdown, fallout, whatever you want to call it. Like the video, comment if you agree with anything, or please comment if you disagree with anything. I'd say, we'll have the discussion. Keep it locked to the MMA Sucka podcast because I'm dropping weekly videos of rescoring controversial fights, controversial decisions. Thanks for listening, guys, and I will catch you next time.